The most obvious thing to fish a small river is you need a small rod. Rods that are 9 foot long, which is your staple trout rod in most situations, are going to be way too long when you're enclosed by trees and you've only got 10 or 12 or 15 foot of river in front of you. So an ideal rod length is going to be something like 6 foot, 7 foot, 7 foot 6, something like that. This is a 7 foot 6 rod. That is ideal in your small to medium sized creeks. If you're going to fish even smaller creeks, then you want to go to a rod like this. This is 6 foot 9. It's a tiny little rod, but it's absolutely ideal in tiny little creeks. It means I can cast and not get my rod tip jammed in the trees above me. Perfect. You're also not going to be casting very far because the creek may be 20 foot wide or 15 foot wide. So that short rod helps get some fly line out to be able to make the cast. And talking of fly lines, when you do go to fish a creek, you're going to fish lighter weight lines. This is a 3 weight right here, you can see. That's probably the heaviest creek line I would ever fish. This actually is called a creek line. I like the creek line because the creek line is a line designed to fish small rivers because it is very front loaded. What that means is you can make very short casts and have a weight in the fly line to help make that cast. Specifically designed for creeks, so a really good type of line to have. 3 weight, 2 weight, 1 weight, whatever rod size you've got. And because you've got those lighter lines, you do need a lighter weight reel. This is a 2 weight reel with a 2 weight line on. Obviously that's going to go into a 2 weight rod. So your system is still going to be balanced, but just shorter. And talking of shorter, the other thing that needs to be short is your leader. Your 9 foot leader is going to be rubbish if you're fishing a creek that's 10 foot wide. Because how do you even get your fly line out? So when you fish smaller rivers, you want to make sure you've got a bunch of smaller leaders. A go-to one is going to be about 7.5 foot in length. That's a great creek size leader. You might change the X's. This is 4X. So if I'm fishing streamers, this would be a 7.5 foot leader, but maybe a 0X, something stiff enough to turn over a streamer. If I'm fishing soft tackles, I might have this 7.5 foot 4X right here. If you're fishing tiny dry flies, this will be 7.5 foot and probably a 6X. So your X might change, but you've got to have that short leader. And if you don't have a short leader and you just decide on the spur of the moment to go up for the creek for the day and you don't have a short leader, well, you can adapt your regular 9 foot leader like this. So here I have a regular 9 foot leader, way too long for a small creek. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find where the taper is, which is right in the center. There's the main taper. And I'm going to extend either side of that taper. I want to retain a bit of butt section and quite a bit of tippet section. In other words, don't chop everything off one end. So I would probably chop about 1.5 feet off the butt section, tie my loop in there, and then come down and, you know what, I'm going to make this a really short leader because I'm fishing a tiny creek. So I'm going to come down here, chop it off at the front end, a little bit of the tippet there. This leader now is 6 foot long, perfectly castable leader. I've retained the butt section, I've retained the taper, and I've retained some tippet to tie on the flies with. So if you don't have those short leaders, you can certainly adapt the leaders you've got and make them fishable in small creeks. And really, that's all the specialty gear you need to fish these smaller rivers. You do need a few special casts to do that, and we're going to take a look at that in the very next chapter.